October is finally here. I'm sure for some of you, you just did a double take like, oh yeah, actually it is that month already. But of course, with October, it brings the month of fears and frights, terrifying things in video games, in real life, and today, some terrifying things in Fallout 4. As in this video, what I want to do is show you a handful of mods that you could download right now, and it'll actually make your Fallout 4 a pretty terrifying experience, really upping that scare factor and just making the game all around a little bit more stressful. I would say with this mod list in particular, I'm really going for one distinctive experience, so I do encourage you guys to watch to the end, as you'll probably want most, if not all, of the mods I'm telling you about, as I kind of am picturing them working together. But either way, starting things off, one of the first ones, a staple that many of you might have downloaded already, is Darker Nights. All this is going to do is make nights darker in Fallout 4, but that's actually kind of essential if you want to be scared. Fear of the unknown is, well, a very real fear. If you're able to just wander around the Commonwealth and see all the threats from miles away, that doesn't really make things super scary, no matter what's laying in the darkness. But a separate mod that I bet the vast majority of you actually don't have installed is Whispering Hills. Maybe more of you on Xbox actually have heard about this one, but at least on PC, this mod was actually pulled from Nexus. There's actually nothing wrong with it, there was just some confusion on the Nexus side of things, so as of right now, it only resides on Bethesda.net, or on the Mod Authors Discord, which I'll also have linked down below. In effect, what Whispering Hills is trying to do is actually bring a Silent Hill styled overhaul to Fallout 4. This doing several things, overhauling some of the weathers you will see. With this mod, you're going to find a ton of fog, a ton of mist. These weathers will make it hard to see, not just because it's dark, but also because there's just low visibility. And it's going to really allow some of those spooky, scary creatures to pop up on you out of nowhere. There are 10 different fogs added in with this. Some of these aren't super bad, you could still get some pretty good view distance, while with some of the other ones it's next to impossible even to see all that much in front of you. But one of the other really cool aspects of this is it actually adds in some of the spooky Silent Hill music into Fallout 4. So when you get into combat or just as you're exploring around, you'll hear that music kick in, and it's just a lot more appropriate for the vibe we're going with this one. It definitely spices things up, but if you really want to get your blood pumping, I would say my favorite feature of this mod overall is the dark Otherworld. So similar to the Silent Hill games, this is going to add in Otherworld functionality. Basically what that means is, as day turns to night, there is a chance you'll get sucked into the Otherworld. You'll know this is happening almost immediately because the game tells you. You'll hear some sirens going off, which is quite fear-inducing in its own right, but then waves of monsters will come and attack you. One of the coolest parts about this is it's actually highly customizable. This will proc every time it turns from day to night, but you can make it only happen 5% of the time. So then when it actually does happen, it is absolutely terrifying because you probably weren't expecting it, but also how many enemies are spawned by this. It'll basically just be waves of zombies spawning all around you, and you're gonna have to fend them off. With this also typically being in a heavily fogged environment, and at nighttime, you could barely see and they come out of nowhere, with some even jumping off of roofs to get to you. I would say this mod in its own right is actually a pretty awesome package. It adds in a lot of cool functionality and features, but also the music really just sets a nice undertone for this entire playthrough. It'll really up the fear factor of Fallout 4 overall and create a pretty different experience. But if you truly want to be terrified in Fallout 4, the next mod you're going to want to download is Zombie Walkers. Combining this with all the other things I've talked about in this video will make Fallout 4 truly terrifying. I would say even just these 3 mods mods alone will make it truly terrifying. This mod does a couple of things, the main of which being, as the title suggests, adding in zombie walkers into this game. These will be basically large groups of zombies that are fairly slow moving until they get close to you, then they'll just start outright sprinting, which that in and of itself is terrifying to turn around and find one of these guys, or about 20 of them just kind of lingering 5 feet away from you. Although a lot of mods are adding in things like that, large groups of zombies spawning all throughout the Commonwealth, but the reason I'm recommending zombie walkers is it really takes it to the next level. This too is fully customizable, so you could actually change around how many spawns there are, how often these spawns occur, and how large the groups are. They'll be attracted to noise, so even if one sees you, they all might not start attacking you until you start firing or running around loudly. They'll actually feed on dead humans, so you might find them crouched over some of the enemies they took down themselves. But speaking of which, when they actually take down enemies, you could set it so they become infected. And if they do get infected with the zombie virus after a short delay, enemies that you may have taken down will rise again. This is also highly configurable. You can make it so all fallen humans will actually rise again. You can make it so it's only those who actually came into contact with the zombie. But this is absolutely terrifying. If you clear out a settlement and then slowly start to realize, oh yeah, all of those guys I just took down are now going to come back to life. There's functionality to make it a headshot only mode, so the only way to fully take down a zombie is to land a headshot. There's a settlement attack system, so similar to vanilla Fallout 4, now you might just find a massive horde of zombies attacking your settlement all at once. And it really is a cool mod. It goes really well with some of these other ones and really does up that fear factor. A lot of the other creatures you just find while wandering around this game aren't that powerful, but a big horde of zombies chasing you at the same time can be pretty strong. But speaking of which, a great companion mod to go along with all of this is Fallsouls After Dark. What this will do is actually give all of the feral ghouls, which these zombies are retextured feral ghouls, so they are fortunately affected by this, a bonus after dark. Their damage will increase, so they'll hit you a lot harder. Their perception will go up, so they'll actually be able to detect you even better than they could during the day, as well as their health will actually be increased. This is a really cool one in general, but specifically in tandem with the Zombie Walkers mod and the Darker Nights mod, it makes nights in Fallout 4 positively terrifying. When you actually get hit by a zombie, it'll almost kill you most of the time, so you have to be a lot more careful. There's a lot of visual ghoul overhaul mods like Decay or others that I bet a lot of you guys probably have already, but with this particular load order, I feel like those were kind of wasted in a sense because most of the time it was dark or hard to see. So rather, I actually went with Terrafire, as what this will do is actually overhaul the audio of feral ghouls rather than just the visuals. So whether or not you like some of those audio changes is naturally going to be pretty subjective, but I would argue after 4 years of Fallout 4, this is certainly a nice change up from the vanilla options. It also is one of the newer mods in this category, and although I would say that collection of mods is actually a good list if you want to just make the game world a little bit more scary, there also are a few other things you could do to almost handicap yourself. And I would say these two mods in particular are where things could get pretty terrifying just all of the time. First off, we do have a very well-known mod with Immersive HUD. What this will do is actually make it so your HUD is more limited. You don't have a crosshair, you won't have a compass on at all times. This mod is pretty nice in particular because it's highly configurable, so you can make it so it'll only show your health if it drops below a certain point, or your compass only while you're aiming. I'd say these changes are pretty handy, but naturally with something like a terrifying Fallout 4, it also makes it so you just have a lot less information. If you're wandering around, you're gonna have to rely a lot more on your eyes and ears and not just be able to look at your compass if you have high perception. And you could also configure this to have almost no HUDs to remove all of those handicaps. But another mod in a very similar vein is actually Fallsouls, which is going to make it so whenever you previously would have had the game paused, now it won't. So the obvious one of this is when you open up your Pip-Boy now, the game will no longer pause. If you're trying to switch items really quickly or use a chem really quickly, enemies are still running at you. You're just gonna have to be quick in the menu or already have had that thing hotkeyed. This also does apply to the pause menu and the console, but it's all toggleable, so you could have some of these on, some of these off. Specifically, I like using it with just the Pip-Boy, as that makes the most sense. But when playing a scary Fallout 4 like this, it really makes it so some of those tense moments remain tense. If a bunch of zombies pop up out of nowhere, you can no longer just jump into your Pip-Boy or pause the game real quick to take a breather and think about what to do next. You're gonna have to deal with that. Deal with it immediately. There really isn't an easy way out, which I personally like. I think that's a pretty cool functionality and mechanic. And it of course does increase the stressfulness of some of those encounters. But then last but not least, we do have immersive squeaky doors. This one almost sounds like a joke or a meme, but it actually genuinely makes this game quite a bit scarier. In Fallout 4, the typical door opening and closing sound is very unassuming. This one's going to change it. It's going to make it squeaky and sound like an old building, like everything just got bombed and is now hundreds of years old. But in particular, where this becomes quite terrifying and effective is while you're exploring through certain interiors. Other mobs and NPCs in this game can open doors, so if you're very tensely or slowly walking through a building's interior, because of course now you're not going to have your HUD or pause menu to really help you through here, and all of a sudden out of the corner of the room you hear one of those squeaks, it's actually pretty terrifying. This is one of those mods that maybe while reading it or seeing it on paper doesn't seem like that big of a deal. When you actually have this in game and you're playing with it, it really does have a profound effect. But it's my hope that overall this entire load order or mod list will have a profound effect. Hopefully it'll make your Fallout 4 quite a bit scarier, but also I like with this one that it actually gives you something else to do. You of course can just play through typical Fallout 4 with all of these mods installed, but also it's kind of fun to just start a new character and go exploring. You have to deal with a lot with all these zombies encounters. It can be pretty fun to try and build up a base and fend these off, but also just the challenge of surviving, especially when it comes to some of those features added in by the Whispering Hills mod. And overall, I would say if you're looking for something to do tonight and you want to be scared in Fallout 4, downloading these mods and actually playing the game for a few hours can be pretty terrifying, but also quite a bit of fun. If you enjoyed this one, you can leave a like or subscribe. Over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to have a lot more in the way of Fallout 4 content, but of course also scary content, looking at some of the spooky aspects of this game, looking at spooky or scary mods, not just for this, but also for Skyrim. And yeah, hopefully you guys are enjoying this. October is really fun on YouTube for this reason, in particular with Fallout 4, which I would say is actually one of the scarier Fallout games in general. With all that being said, I thank you again for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope to see you all next time. Later.